Well, honor is one of the central things in all of our relationships. And if you listen to that conversation, notice that what tends to happen is before everything is, bright and cheery, and then afterwards all of a sudden we feel like everything changes. All right? Now, I just want to say this, that a lot of times people say, this isn't the person I've married. You ever heard that before? I just want to tell you that yes, it is. All right? It is the person you've married. You weren't under some delusion. That actually did happen, okay? The problem is a lot of times our attitude changes over time. And we get caught in some bad habits as we relate together that causes that kind of tension and things in our relationships. And so this just gives you a little picture of some of the things that people think as they deal with their marriages. And honor is a central part of all of that. If you listen to it, you heard the lack of talking. He won't talk to me anymore. He says, well, I can't do anything right anymore. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the dynamics that happens in a relationship that causes those things to happen, again, so that we can see signs like that and stay out of the way of them. But before we do that, we need to really define what honor is, because when I say honor, everybody has a different picture. Some people think of, the judge they had to face when they got a traffic ticket, because his name is Your Honor. And they go, well, that's the last thing I want to ever have happen in my relationship is where I'm getting tickets for everything I do wrong. Or we think of honor in terms of, saluting, like a military kind of a thing. And you say, hey, I'm not doing that with my spouse, sorry. I want to check out. But that's not what honor is. So let's talk about it. What is honor and how is it an act of worship? Honor is the act of giving something high status. It's realizing that something is so valuable that you have elevated to a place of highest respect. Let me give you an example of that. If I was to tell you right now that the President of the United States was here tonight, and he were to walk out on stage, it really doesn't matter if you like the President, it doesn't matter if you voted for him or not, it doesn't matter if you like his policies or not. Just the fact that he would be here would make you feel a sense of awe because you recognize the status of his title, right? You'd go, whoa, what in the world is the president doing here? Why would he come talk to us? Boy, this is an honor to have the guy in the room. What's going on? Because you recognize the status and the title that he has. That's what honor is that we recognize the value that our spouse has. And we choose to give our spouse high status, like we would other things. Not only that, but honor is a decision to surrender my rights for the sake of oneness. Surrender my rights for the sake of oneness. If you look at the passage, if you look at the verse just before the passage we read in Ephesians, it says, and be subject to one another in the fear of Christ. Being subject to one another, what does that mean? Is that a hierarchy kind of thing? No, not necessarily. What that means in this context, I believe, is that we make the decision to give up our demands. The things that we say, you know what, my spouse should be doing these things for me. And doggone it, I demand that they do this or otherwise they've breached contract with me. It's not right. And we choose instead to say, you know what, to be one with you, I'm going to set aside all these things that I think are my rights and demands so that you and I can connect together and be one together. That's what that means. And guess what that is? Number 3, we honor one another out of reverence and awe of Christ, which is our worship. Notice what it says, in the fear of Christ. It's not being scared of Christ, it's an act of awe or an act of reverence or respect. That as an act of respect to Christ, we decide and choose to honor one another. And that's an act of worship to God.